What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, certainly coming through for you guys once again for a brand new Black Lightning episode review, as Black Lightning's back, as we're about to go ahead and get into season 4, episode number 6, still in the Book of Ruin this time, and hopefully carrying over some momentum that we wind up having from last week into this particular week's episode, as this is really dealing with the ramifications of the massive swerve that Salima Kill wind up giving us last week and just punching us in the face and really swerving us in regards to a brand new Jennifer that we were certainly going to get. And this episode really tackles just not only how Jennifer handles it, but also her family as well, guys. So we're definitely going to be getting into all of it today. But first and foremost, to everybody that did come out for our last Black Lightning review, thank you so much. It showed so much love. We almost got like 1,000 views over our last Black Lightning. Really clearly intrigued a lot of people to find out what happened with Jennifer and to kind of hear people's points of view. So we'll see if that attention from last week's episode certainly carries over into this one for sure, as we wind up having newcomer Laura Kariuki. There we go. Laura Kariuki. Almost went blank there for a minute because I'm not familiar with this actress. They, in one of the articles I read, it did say newcomer, so I don't know if that's a newcomer to the show or if that's just newcomer to acting in general. But regardless, we're going to be seeing her experiencing this acting for the first time possibly on this show, as she winds up taking over for China McClain, and significantly different, to certainly say the least. Different performances, clearly visually look different. She's much taller. I don't even know how tall Laura Kariuki is, but if anything, I feel like she probably even rivals that of Anissa, who's already tall in her own right, and even like probably taller than her mom at this particular point in time, right? Like the costume for Lightning doesn't even fit her anymore. Like Gambi legit said, yeah, we're gonna have to design something completely brand new for you. So there are some significant changes, but this is in fact Jennifer. This is in fact Jennifer, and I gotta say, I love the ramifications that we have to deal with here very early on. The idea of, Jefferson wanting his daughter back, even though it's like, that's your daughter. It really did take Jefferson practically all episode long to kind of just come to terms with the idea of what has certainly happened. It's been a very hard and difficult pill for him to swallow in this episode, but I love the fact that eventually, after Jen gets over her own freaked outness about realizing that she looks completely different, that we have somebody like Anissa who is ready to be there to embrace her sister, right? Seeing Lynn step up a little bit also and kind of shake off the idea that, yes, you may look different, but you're definitely my daughter, to say the least. So, and even seeing somebody like Grace kind of give Jennifer some advice, somebody that has had difficulty when it comes to shape-shifting or changing their appearance, or maybe being stuck that way for quite some time, right? So I love the fact that even Grace kind of came on board and really kind of gave Jen the support that she certainly needed here in the beginning of this episode to continue to push through. But I got to tell you, talk about just cold-blooded. I thought Tobias was cold. Seeing Jefferson, make that decision to just kind of walk out without even referring to his daughter or even embracing her, sort of thing. That's difficult, man. I certainly was not surprised when Jennifer started crying a little bit towards that, just because of the fact that your father literally cannot look at you and winds up leaving. I'm sure there was probably a little bit of a guilt there, him thinking that maybe he certainly did something wrong, despite the fact that Gambi and Lynn told him that this is not on you, right? And I do love the fact that we at least get a scientific sort of explanation as to what happens with Jennifer here. The idea that while her DNA matches, it seems as though the genes of hers have kind of decided to take a different appearance than they certainly used to, right? I think Lynn compares it to like identical twins, that while they do share the same DNA, their genes do allow themselves to be a little bit more free and in what type of appearance they certainly want to take, right? So in regards to adding some significant changes to it. So they really compare it to the same thing here with Jennifer, the idea that her DNA is matched, the molecular structure has been brought back together, but the genes are just just expressing themselves a little bit differently. And so thus we have ourselves a brand new Jennifer. For me, it's going to be really fascinating to see how she fits into everything, right? Like, how do you go back to school? How do you, do you completely need a new persona now? Is the Pierce family going to have to make an excuse as to what happened to the previous Lightning, or what happened to her daughter Jennifer, to their daughter Jennifer, right? Did she go away or something like that? Is that a story that they're going to have to kind of come up with? So there's certainly a lot of dilemma that their Pierce family has to deal with now that we do in fact have Jennifer looking completely brand new. But I will say this: if there is anything that excites me about this new appearance here, I am wondering how this is all going to work itself out for the potential upcoming Painkiller spinoff, because I do believe that Salim Akil has mentioned that Thunder and Lightning were probably going to be in that series. So I want to kind of see what Jordan Calloway, like what Khalil certainly thinks of the significant change. And one of my favorite sequences in here, just going back to Anissa being that big sister, one of the things that I've always loved about Black Lightning is the sisterly duo that we have between those two. The chemistry was always there, the dialogue, the witty banter, them always picking on each other. I really love that type of stuff. And a part of me wonders, like, has it always been just the actresses themselves, or is it the chemistry between these characters that just work out so incredibly well? And I wouldn't say that the sisterly conversation was as good as if when China McClain was certainly in there, but I got to say, I still certainly enjoyed this, right? Like, I love seeing the new Jennifer, like, kind of digging the idea that she's a little bit more dark chocolate this time around. You know what I'm saying? Like, even Anissa appreciating maybe her long legs, or the fact that she's a little bit taller, right? Like, I kind of get that. I kind of dig just the idea of them complimenting each other and poking fun type of thing. I love when those two sisters just truly click, to be perfectly honest with you. But I really love Jennifer's journey here in this week's episode. The idea of trying to understand yourself, get back into who you certainly are, despite the fact that everybody tells you to kind of stay grounded. You got somebody like a TC who's trying to boost her up, and the next thing you know, pushes her out. For a second there, I was just thinking to myself, like, please, Jennifer, I know you love to just rush into things, but please show me that you've learned your lesson, right? The idea of, like, just don't go back up to the ionosphere. Just, let's just completely avoid that. But I honestly thought that the fact that TC pushed her in this episode to go kind of go back out there, or at least encourage her, I should say. A part of me was really worried. I was really worried that either the parents were going to come down hard on her, or she was going to do something stupid once again and find herself in another terrible predicament. But this time around, it actually worked out for her, and she wound up not only saving her dad, but working rather closely with her father in here, which was pretty cool, considering the fact that all episode long there was clear tension there. Jefferson clearly did not see her at all episode long, from the beginning until the very end. But I love the fact that he clearly has come to grips with things, appreciates the fact that his daughter was certainly there to go ahead and help him. And despite the fact that there has been tension, embracing your daughter in a big old hug and letting her know that everything's going to be okay. I thought it was a brilliant sort of a father and daughter sort of situation. Now, will this carry over into the next week's episode? We'll certainly see. But I really did love the ending for these two here. And it feels as though Jennifer is now part of the family again, if you will, right? Not many people feeling too awkward. But I'm sure it's always going to be a big learning curve, certainly going forward. But I really enjoyed Jennifer's story here this week, and just really that tension and awkwardness that we have between her as well as her father in here. And speaking of Jefferson in here, he had actually a couple of interesting decisions that he had to make also for himself. Again, he's back in the costume, right? We saw that the previous week. It seems as though once he's put the suit back on, it's kind of clinging to him now, right? Like, he's definitely not going to hang it up again. I think he certainly sees the importance of what Black Lightning certainly means to the community now. I love the fact that he also meets up with Detective Shakur, who is in fact, one of Henderson's best friends, or at least a trusted confidant that Henderson certainly let Jefferson in on. So it was cool to see Black Lightning and Detective Shakur actually working side by side with one another, really kind of breaking down the investigation in regards to who killed killed the mayor, right? Finding the bullet still in its casing, realizing that the bullet was in fact magnetized. So they come to realize that for a sharpshooter to shoot somebody from 4 miles away with a magnetic bullet, it clearly had to be a metahuman with some sort of magnetic abilities or magnetism or whatever the case may be. So I love the fact that those two are in fact certainly working together. And for me, it's just really great to see Jefferson just sort of back in the saddle as Black Lightning, to be perfectly honest with you. They did have an interesting portion of the episode here that I wanted to talk a little bit about. The idea that on the police scanner, we get an announcement from the police department that they have like a no-knock warrant, that they're going to go ahead and go over to this apartment and go ahead and arrest whoever's certainly there. I will say this, Salim Akil has always been one to not shy away from keeping up with the current climate and the current situation in our world, if you will. And this particular episode just completely screams Breonna Taylor to me when I watched it. And, at first, I don't know how I felt about it when I watched it in this episode. There's something, I get the idea of putting something in your face to make you understand the situation a little bit more. You know what I mean? To kind of show you a certain perspective of it, to possibly see how things, went down with the whole Breonna Taylor case. Sometimes I don't mind when things are subtle. Sometimes it bothers me when it's really directly in your face. It's interesting to me because last week, Salim Akil did the George Floyd moment with the guy with LaLa, the bigger guy. And he kept saying the thing of, I can't breathe. And then Detective Shakur came up and was just like, don't use that as an excuse type of thing, bringing some attention to it and things like that. And he does it again here. For some reason, I got to say, I don't know if it bothered me so much because it felt too on the nose. You know what I mean? I get the idea and I appreciate the idea of trying to showcase to us maybe, what happened and things like that. But sometimes I just feel like when it's too on the nose, I feel like maybe you could have gone a different route. But I will say this. The reason why it didn't bother me as much is because of the fact that it takes a time out, right? They show what happens with Breonna Taylor, if you will, and then you see the riots, and they use stock footage from this past year about the riots and the protests and things like that happened on the streets. Great musical selection too, I got to admit. So when they first did it, I felt a little bit uncomfortable because I felt like this is way too on the nose for me to be portraying this type of stuff on television. I don't know if it's like too soon, if I felt that way or not, but I didn't mind it so much the moment that I see they're going through this whole spiel, this whole showcase, and then it stops and then it starts going backwards in time. And you see that what really happens, that doesn't happen. That Black Lightning actually does come in at the nick of time and saves the day. And for me, when I see that, I am wondering if this is Salim Akil's attempt to showcase not only what happened to Breonna Taylor, but also the idea of police reform, the idea of no-knock warrants. If I'm not mistaken, and I try not to be political on the show, but I do believe that that's like a topic that they're probably going to be discussing here in the Senate soon, or trying to pass bills like a police reform, if you will. And so I'm wondering if this is Salim Akil's attempt in order to bring awareness to that idea of the no-knock warrant, how dangerous it could certainly be, especially when you get your information wrong, right? And you're just busting into somebody's household that's not expecting you type of thing. So I do think that to a certain extent, if Salim did a really great job in showcasing that, but to a certain extent, I'm still not quite sure how I felt about it originally. But outside of that, I at least get his point. I at least get what he's certainly trying to push for sure. But that one just felt a little bit too on the nose. And I almost felt like that maybe he has quite a few of those this season. And, maybe that it is meant to kind of make somebody uncomfortable, right? Because that type of stuff happens every day. And so you have to feel a little bit uncomfortable with those things because when you look at it, it just doesn't seem right. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess we all have to get a little bit uncomfortable in order to kind of see the truth in front of us and how we as a people should certainly approach things going forward. So I find it interesting. I would be really fascinated to know what some of you guys think in regards to that. If you picked up on the same things or how you certainly read into it, whether you appreciated it or not, I would be really curious to know. We did get ourselves a debut here of a brand new character in Ismael. Ismael was in fact hired by LaLa's competition, the girl that he's been trying to kill for quite some time. And I'm not too familiar with the Ismael character myself, but he looked pretty badass. I love the fact that he's literally wearing like sweats and a hoodie, and he comes in with these two gigantic swords. But I had to do a little bit of research in him because I myself wasn't too familiar, and I found this article here from comicbook.com talking about it when Salim Akil mentioned that Ismael was going to be part of the show. He says Ismael is a new character that we're going to see, and he's from the comics. It says if fans are not familiar with Ismael, that's because the character is fairly new, created by Brian Edward Hill, who's actually going on to write the Power Ranger movie, actually. Ismael debuted in the pages of Batman and the Outsiders, Volume 3, Number 1 in 2019. A man who was kidnapped and put in a program to create a personal army of metahumans. Ismael gained superpowers as a result of the experimentation, the most interesting of which is the ability to leech the powers of other metahumans. When the experiments cause Ismael to start dying, Ra's al Ghul puts him in a Lazarus pit, giving him a functional immortality. In the comics, Ismael does wind up killing one of Black Lightning's friends. And I believe in this episode too, Ismael references the idea that he's trying to get into the League of Assassins, right? So they're already making that Ra's al Ghul connection. I think his job was to kill 100. I was about to say 1,000. 100 metahumans. And I think he's up to like 94 or something like that. And so we do see LaLa's competition giving him, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, now giving him a brand new job, and that is in fact the Pierce family. So Ismael versus the Pierce family. I'm going to be interested to see exactly how that works itself out and certainly comes along. And speaking of LaLa, man, talk about terrible circumstances to be in, right? Homeboy looks like he's frozen in carbonite. But they literally just cemented this guy, and she's using him as like a freaking portrait, which is crazy, as a little piece of artwork in there, if you will. I mean, talk about the idea of stopping an immortal, right? If you guys haven't had the opportunity to check out the Netflix movie Old Guard, please go ahead and do yourselves a favor. There is a moment in there where they're talking about this ancient being or this person, this old friend of theirs that was also immortal to a certain extent, and the way that they got rid of her was they trapped her in like this iron tomb or something like that and literally dropped her into the middle of the ocean. So she was living as she's going all the way down, drowning, and she just keeps drowning and waking back up, drowning and waking back up for the rest of eternity. And I feel like that's very much the situation that LaLa finds himself in here now. The fact that he's going to be alive, waking up, but still just unable to move and just dying in that body over and over again. I don't know if LaLa gets out of this. This might be the last that we see of LaLa. I have no idea. But damn, talk about a brilliant plan on keeping somebody that can't die down. You know what I mean? Incredible stuff. And I do want to go back to Jefferson Pierce because I'm sorry, I did lose my train of thought going down the whole Breonna Taylor path there. But when it comes to Jefferson, there's a moment in this episode. Like, I just kept thinking to myself, like, damn, Jefferson, what are you doing, man? You know, the fact that he walked away from Jennifer at the very beginning, and then later on in the episode when he comes back and he's talking to Lynn, because Lynn did tests on Tobias's, like, right-hand lady, his assistant, because she has, what was it, ALS? I can't remember. She's got something, but that I know Lynn was going to be doing tests on her. But the fact that Jefferson literally comes in and is like, well, does she have metahuman abilities? Like, she does have metahuman abilities. What kind of abilities does she have? Well, I don't know. You have to test it. We'll take it. Like, what? Like, Jefferson, what are you talking about? Why are you telling Lynn to take this? Like, you've been the biggest proponent of the fact that she needs to get off the green light, that she needs to get off of the metahuman's abilities, right? And now you want her to inject herself? I mean, what type of support system is that supposed to be, man? Like, they really are still not on the same page, are they? Like, even the idea of them hugging and getting, apologizing and stuff, even coming up with the plan to kind of work behind the scenes and undercover against Tobias, it's like it's just a ends to a means, like almost like the idea of that they still technically like harbor ill will towards one another. That Jefferson's not fully comprehending what he's asking Lynn to do. It's like, oh, well, you've taken them before. Why can't you just take it now? Well, bitch, because I'm trying to recover. Like, you're being terrible for my recovery process here, man. And so Jefferson was all over the place in this episode. I didn't know what was going on, to be perfectly honest with you. Just some bad decision making by him at the end of the day. And I would be curious to see if Lynn falls down that path in order to kind of accomplish this mission of theirs, if you will. But like at what cost? You know what I mean? Just crazy stuff, to say the least. And speaking of Tobias, he's now running for mayor, which is even crazier. I mean, not unexpected. We did see him coming back, clearly trying to make big moves, putting a ton of money to the police department, helping out Lauren over at Monta Vista, Gambi's girl, and helping her, provide the DEGs, the direct energy guns, to every police officer in Freeland, type of thing. So Tobias is making some huge moves, and now he's going to be running for mayor. I mean, damn, this guy should just start running out for president at some particular point in time. Move over, Lex Luthor, you know what I mean? But I love the situation that Tobias certainly finds himself in a position of power where people just seemingly trust him despite his past when it comes to Freeland. And, you've got the Pierce family. That's the only people that's standing in their way. So Tobias is having some fun, man. And when Tobias has fun, I have fun watching the television show. It's absolutely true. But, guys, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wind up missing in here for us to talk about. Gambi. Gambi's been a little bit darker than I remember. I mean, goodness, I know Lauren is fine as can be, but now he's like seducing her to kind of get information that he needs, right? The idea, I mean, well, she's seducing him too, don't get me wrong, but Gambi's playing along with this. He's got an ultimate plan to try and figure out and get to the bottom of whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, you still have him, like, I'm pretty sure that he cares for Lauren, right? Like, you can clearly see it when it comes to Gambi. But Gambi's doing some things and taking advantage of the idea that she is letting him get close to her, right? Getting close through her emotions, bringing back an old game board, you know what I'm saying? To really just let her guard down, where you come in and swoop in and take the information that you need and copy her eye and stuff. Like, you can see it on Gambi's face. He doesn't want to do it. He feels bad about what he's doing. You know why? Because he knows what he's doing is wrong. Because the moment that she finds out, she's going to be absolutely pissed and hurt and broken. And Gambi, man, you probably had yourself a good thing coming, bro. And I have no idea what's going to happen with that situation. But I'm here for it. I'm here for Gambi to find love and to find him in just really his own little solo mission here this season, and doing his own research. And, I mean, granted, I know he's helping out the rest of the team here and there, but I love the fact that he's got his own storyline thing that he's working on this season. So I'm a really big fan of that. Other than that, guys, the Anissa and Grace stuff, they're clearly going on their honeymoon now. Anissa looked amazing in everything that she wound up wearing this week. Also, Grace is a lucky woman. Grace is definitely a lucky woman. And Anissa just has to get better at at love in general and expressing yourself for sure. But overall, I really enjoyed this week's episode. I really did. I love the impact of the new Jennifer. I love just the awkwardness and the tension that it winds up creating for Jefferson in here. Tobias as mayor was fantastic. Ismael, LaLa, Lynn with the metahuman stuff. I mean, it's all over the place, but I absolutely love this week's episode, guys. But listen, at the end of the day, though, these are just my A+ opinions. I always want to know yours. So please let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below after this airs. And of course, if you love our content, hit that big like button, guys. And if also you want a new place for your Black Lightning reviews, hit that subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen, along with that bell notification. So anytime we drop a brand new video, you will be notified. And of course, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so right here at A+ Opinions. Very active over on Facebook and Twitter. And you can also check us out on Instagram and Twitch for you gamers as well. But until next time, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.